I once met a man in Ohio who swore that his life had been ruined by bad luck. He told me that if he had just been born into a richer family, if he had just had the right opportunities, he would have been successful. But when I looked closer at his daily life, I realized it wasn't bad luck at all. It was his habits that he stayed up late every night watching television. He rolled out of bed at the last possible minute, rushed through his mornings, and always seemed tired. He put off the work that mattered most, telling himself he would start tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. His dream wasn't destroyed by fate. It was destroyed by the little things he repeated every single day. And that's when I understood something that changed my life forever. Your future isn't built in one dramatic decision. It's built in the small choices you repeat day after day. The truth about habits: most people think habits are small details, things that don't matter much. They believe success comes from some big, once-in-a-lifetime event, winning the lottery, meeting the right person, or stumbling into the perfect opportunity. But here's the truth: your destiny isn't changed by one sudden miracle. It's shaped by the set of decisions you repeat every single day. Think of it like a river. The water doesn't carve the canyon in one giant wave. It carves it little by little, with steady pressure, year after year. Your habits are the river. They are shaping the direction of your life. Whether you notice or not, if your habits are messy, your life will be messy. If your habits are firm and disciplined, your life will be steady, strong, and powerful. What habits really do? You don't become what you dream about. You become what you do. Every action you repeat is like a brick. Day after day, you are building the house of your future. Some people build castles. Others build prisons. But everyone is building something. And here's the extraordinary part: you don't have to wait for tomorrow to begin. You can start changing your destiny today. Not with a miracle, but with the simple act of putting your habits in order. You already have habits. The first thing you need to understand is this: you already have habits, whether you like it or not. From the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep, you are following automatic patterns that guide your life. Some habits serve you: waking up early, planning your day, taking care of your health, investing time in what truly matters. But others drag you backward, putting things off, wasting hours on distractions, eating carelessly, spending without thinking. The question isn't whether you have habits. The real question is, which habits are building the life you want, and which habits are secretly sabotaging it? The silent force of repetition. Most people don't realize how their habits form. A gesture you repeat once, an excuse you make twice, a comfortable decision you justify 3 times. Suddenly it has become a fixed routine. It doesn't feel like a choice anymore. It feels automatic. That's how people end up living on autopilot. They don't decide with deep thought to watch television for 3 hours every night. They just fall into it. They don't plan to check their phone every 10 minutes. They just do it. And yet these small decisions create a massive impact. One look at your daily habits, and I can tell you where you'll be in 5 years. The first step: make habits visible. You can't change what you don't recognize. That's why the first step is simple but powerful. Make your habits visible. Do this. Spend 1 full day observing yourself. Write down everything you do, from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep. Be brutally honest. What time do you wake up? What do you eat? How often do you check your phone? How many hours do you actually focus? What do you do before bed? It may feel tedious, but when you see your entire day written on paper, you'll discover something life-changing. Your future isn't a mystery. It's written in those invisible routines. The mirror of habits. If you feel tired all the time, your sleep habits are probably poor. If you aren't reaching your goals, your focus habits are weak. If your relationships are falling apart, your communication habits are broken. This is uncomfortable to admit, but it's also liberating. Because once you see the truth, You can no longer hide behind excuses. You can't blame bad luck, lack of opportunity, or fate. Your life is the direct reflection of your habits. Turning the hidden force into a choice. Here's the good news. Once you recognize your habits, they stop being hidden forces and start becoming conscious choices. That's when you take your power back. Now you can separate them into two groups. 1. The habits you want to preserve and strengthen. Point 2. The habits you want to weaken and replace. And remember, when you remove a bad habit, you must replace it with something else. A void never stays empty. If you don't fill it with a conscious choice, the old habit will creep back in. So if you decide to stop checking your phone first thing in the morning, you must choose what you'll do instead. Maybe it's reading a few pages of a book. Maybe it's writing your goals for the day. Maybe it's a few deep breaths to start with clarity. The small things that matter most. The biggest mistake people make is thinking only the big habits matter. But it's the small ones that shape your character the most. The way you make your bed in the morning, the way you speak to the cashier at the store, the way you prepare before a meeting. These tiny, repeated acts are symbols of how you approach life. And when you train yourself to do them with intention, you send a powerful message to your mind. I am in control. I decide. I build. Habits. The language of your future. Think of your habits as the language your life speaks to the future. Every day, you are sending a message to the person you will be in a year, 5 years, 10 years. That message can say, I am growing, or it can say, I am stuck. When you put your habits in order, you ensure that when the future arrives, you will receive the fruits of discipline instead of the consequences of carelessness. Because your destiny isn't written in one big event. It's written on the invisible pages of each day. And those pages are made of habits. Closing thought for part 1. Changing your habits is changing your destiny. The first step is to see them clearly, to face the truth, and to decide which ones will shape your tomorrow. The next step, which we'll explore in part 2, is understanding the power of your environment, the silent force that makes good habits easy and bad habits hard. Because success isn't about fighting yourself every day. It's about creating a system that makes success inevitable. White heavy check mark. That's part 1, about 1,000 words, rewritten in Napoleon Hill style storytelling with a hook, simple narrative, and motivational clarity. Would you like me to continue and prepare part 2 in the same style right away? Or do you want to review and refine part 1 before we move forward? Part 2, the law of repetition and time. The hook. I remember meeting a young man in Chicago who told me, I tried waking up early for a week, but it didn't change my life. I went back to my old routine. I asked him a simple question. When you planted your first seed in the ground, did you expect a tree to grow in 7 days? He laughed nervously, realizing the truth. Just as no farmer would quit watering a seed after 1 week, no man should expect his new habits to transform his life overnight. And yet this is the trap so many fall into. They want instant results, instant muscles, instant wealth, instant wisdom. And when they don't see it quickly, they quit. But life doesn't work that way. Success doesn't come from what you do once. It comes from what you repeat, patiently, consistently, and faithfully over time. The silent investment. Here's the principle you must understand. Every repetition is an invisible investment. Every workout you complete, even when no muscle shows, is a deposit into your strength. Every dollar you save, even when your account still looks small, is a deposit into your wealth. Every hour of study, even when the subject still confuses you, is a deposit into your wisdom. These investments don't pay off immediately. But like compound interest in a bank, they multiply silently in the background. And one day, they overflow into visible results. That's why many men fail. They stop depositing too soon. They quit before the harvest comes. They forget the law of time and repetition. The brain's secret programming. Your brain is built on consistency. Each time you repeat an action, you strengthen a neural connection. Imagine it like a path in a forest. The first time you walk it, the trail is rough, covered in grass and branches. But walk it every day, and soon the trail is clear and easy. Your brain works the same way. Repetition makes the path smooth until it becomes automatic. That's why discipline becomes easier the more you repeat it. And laziness also becomes easier the more you repeat it. There is no neutrality. Every day, you are either programming your mind toward strength or toward weakness, discipline or laziness. Your choice. A man who practices discipline every day becomes naturally disciplined. He doesn't have to force himself forever. His identity changes. A man who practices laziness every day becomes naturally lazy. He doesn't have to decide to waste time. It becomes his second nature. Your current character is nothing more than the sum of what you've repeated until now. And your future character will depend entirely on what you choose to repeat tomorrow. Drops of water on stone. Let me give you an image. Imagine a drop of water falling on a stone. The first drop does nothing. The second drop does nothing. But after years of repetition, that water carves a hole into solid rock. That's what habits do. The power isn't in one action, but in the relentless repetition. That's why you must commit to consistency over perfection. Consistency over perfection. Too many men give up because they think they must perform at 100% every day. But that's not true. There will be days you're tired. Days when you don't feel like studying, working, or exercising. Days when life interrupts you. But even on those days, you can do something small to keep the chain alive. If you can't run 5 miles, walk 1. If you can't read 20 pages, read 2. If you can't save $100, save $10. The key is not to let one misday become 2. Not to let 2 misdays become a pattern. Habits die when you stop showing up. Even small actions keep the seed alive. When habits become identity, the real transformation doesn't happen the first time you practice a habit. It happens when the habit stops being something you try to do and becomes who you are. You don't try to wake up early. You are simply a man who wakes up early. You don't try to eat healthy. You are a man who takes care of his body. You don't try to save money. You are a man who is financially responsible. That's the secret. Habits move from action to identity. And when they become identity, they no longer feel forced. They become natural. The seed principle. Think of habits as seeds. When you first plant them, the soil looks empty. Days pass, and nothing seems to happen. You water, you wait, you hope, but still no sprout. This is where most men give up. They say, "It's useless. Nothing's happening." But the truth is, something is happening underground. The seed is rooting itself. And when the time is right, it breaks the soil and grows strong. So it is with your habits. In the beginning, they demand energy and discipline. But if you keep watering them, they grow roots. And once rooted, they no longer require as much effort. They are simply part of you. The enemy within. But there's an enemy you must fight. It's not the world. It's not your circumstances. It's not even other people. It's the inner voice that whispers, "Do it tomorrow. It doesn't matter if you miss today. Rest just this once. It changes nothing." That voice is resistance. It disguises itself as logic. But in reality, it is your comfort zone pulling you back. Every time you act despite that voice, you strengthen your character. Every time you obey it, you weaken yourself. Over time, your destiny depends on which one you choose more often, discipline or comfort. Replacing, not just removing. Now here's another law. You cannot eliminate a habit without replacing it. Many people fail because they tried to quit bad habits with pure willpower. They stopped smoking, stopped drinking soda, stopped wasting time online. But without replacement, the brain seeks a substitute and usually finds another destructive habit. The secret is substitution. Don't just say no to the old. Say yes to something better. Instead of stress spending, go for a walk, write your thoughts, or call a friend. Instead of scrolling your phone in the morning, read a book, write down goals, or meditate. Instead of fast food, prepare something nourishing in advance. The void must be filled. Fill it with growth. Triggers and rewards. No habit is random. Every habit has a trigger. It may be a place, an emotion, a time of day, or even a person. If you always stop for fast food when you drive past a certain restaurant, the trigger isn't hunger, it's the location. Change your route, and you weaken the habit. And every habit also has a reward. The brain repeats what feels good. That's why you must reward your positive habits, not with destructive indulgence, but with recognition. Mark your calendar with each completed day. Give yourself a small break after a hard task. Say out loud, "I kept my promise." These small celebrations reinforce the habit until your brain craves the act of discipline itself. Identity above all. Finally, remember this. The strongest habits come not from actions, but from identity. Don't just say, "I want to quit smoking." Say, "I am a man who values health." Don't just say, "I want to read more." Say, "I am a man who invests in his mind." Don't just say, "I want to be disciplined." Say, "I am disciplined." Your actions will always align with who you believe yourself to be. Change your identity, and your habits will follow. Closing thought for part 2. Your habits are not about perfection. They are about persistence. Every small repetition is a seed. Every seed grows into a tree. And every tree becomes the forest of your destiny. So choose carefully what you repeat. Because what you repeat becomes who you are. And who you are decides what you achieve. In part 3, we will explore how discipline and emotion work together, how to train your mind to act even when you don't feel like it, and why emotion without structure leads to failure. White heavy check mark. That's part 2, 1,000 words, transformed into a Napoleon Hill style motivational story with hook, narrative, and simple language. Would you like me to go ahead and start part 3 now in the same storytelling format? Or would you prefer me to complete all 6 parts and then refine them together? Part 3. The Man Who Ordered His Habits. Let me tell you a story. A young man once approached an old mentor with frustration in his voice. "Sir," he said, "I try to build better habits. I start strong, but I always fall back. One bad day at work, and I eat junk food. One argument at home, and I waste hours on TV. One wave of discouragement, and I abandon my routine. Why does this always happen to me?" The mentor smiled calmly. "Because, my boy, you are letting your emotions live your life for you. Until you master your habits will master you. And until you master your emotions will destroy your habits." The young man leaned in. He knew he had found a truth worth keeping. Emotions versus principles. The mentor explained. "You see, order in life begins with order in habits. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of man you are becoming. Each time you stick to your chosen habit, you are casting a vote for discipline, clarity, and strength. And each time you abandon it, you're casting a vote for weakness and mediocrity. But here is the real battle. Habits do not break because they are too hard. They break because you let a passing emotion, anger, sadness, frustration, or laziness decide for you. You let a temporary storm decide the course of your ship." He paused, then asked, "Do you want to be the captain of your life, or just a leaf blown by the wind?" The young man swallowed hard. He knew which one he wanted. The pause that saves you. Here's the secret, said the mentor. When the emotion rises, pause. Just for a moment. Ask yourself one question. Does this impulse represent the man I want to be, or the man I am leaving behind? That pause may only last 5 seconds, but it can save you 5 months of progress. That single pause separates the disciplined man from the ordinary one. The young man nodded slowly, as if the words were carving themselves into his heart. Substitute responses, the mentor continued. Never wait until you're drowning in emotion to invent a lifeboat. Prepare in advance. If you know stress makes you eat, decide beforehand what you'll do instead. Maybe you'll go for a walk, do 10 push-ups, breathe deeply, or write in a notebook. This is called a substitute response. You practice it until it becomes automatic. That way, when the storm comes, you already know how to steer your ship. The student's eyes lit up. For the first time, he felt he had a real weapon against his old patterns. Motivation will betray you. But remember, the mentor warned, motivation is a liar. Some days you'll feel inspired, other days you won't. The average man only acts when he feels motivated. The disciplined man acts whether he feels like it or not. The question is never, do I want to do this? The question is always, did I promise to do this? If the answer is yes, you do it, no matter how you feel. That is character. That is how habits are forged into steel. The young man felt a fire rise within him. He had lived too long obeying his moods. Time, the raw material of life. The mentor leaned closer. Now let's talk about time. Do you know what time really is? The young man shrugged. Hours in a day? The mentor shook his head. No, time is the raw material of your life. It is more valuable than money, land, or gold. Because once a minute is gone, you never get it back. And yet, most men waste it thoughtlessly, scrolling, gossiping, chasing distractions. They mortgage their future by squandering their days. Tell me, boy, are you investing your time, or spending it like a drunkard spends his last dollar? The question struck him like lightning. He thought of the hours he had thrown away without care, planning the day. Order begins, said the mentor, when you decide in advance how your day will be spent. Do not try to control every minute, that is slavery. Instead, choose the 3 actions that matter most. If you finish those, the day is a victory. Busyness is not progress. Running in circles is not the same as moving forward. A man can waste his life answering messages, reacting to calls, and putting out fires, while his true dreams die in neglect. That is the habit of mediocrity. The young man felt as if someone had just revealed the trick behind a magic show. For years, he had mistaken movement for progress. The power of no, the mentor's tone grew sharper. You must also learn to say no. Every yes to an empty commitment is a no to your future. Going out every weekend without purpose, spending hours in empty talk, or carrying other people's problems. All of this steals your time. If you cannot protect your schedule, then you don't own your life. Other people do. The habit of saying yes to everything is the quickest way to waste your destiny. Learn the habit of saying no with courage and self-respect. The student's jaw tightened. He thought of all the times he had said yes out of guilt or politeness, and how much it had cost him. Responsibility. The turning point. The mentor then grew quiet. He let the silence stretch before saying, the most powerful habit a man can build is responsibility. Your current life is not an accident. It is the result of the habits and decisions you have repeated for years. If you want a different future, you must accept this truth. No one is coming to save you. Control is not given. It is taken. Stop blaming circumstances, luck, or other people. Stop living as a victim. Even if something wasn't your fault, your response is always your responsibility. And that response is what builds or destroys your future. The words cut deep. The student lowered his eyes. He had spent too many years blaming others. Building the muscle of responsibility, the mentor's voice grew firm. Responsibility is a muscle. Every time you keep a promise, it strengthens. Every time you finish what you start, it grows. Every time you admit a mistake and correct it, instead of excusing it, it becomes unshakable. But when you lie, blame, or procrastinate, that muscle weakens. Ordering your life depends on how strong this muscle becomes. The young man clenched his fists. He knew he had neglected this training for too long. Vision, the compass of habits. Finally, the mentor said. Now listen carefully. Ordering your habits is useless unless you connect them to a vision. Many men live in circles, working, eating, resting, repeating, without a clear direction. Success is not vague. You must visualize it precisely. Not just I want to be rich or I want to be fit. Describe the life you want in detail. What do your mornings look like? How do you feel in that strong, healthy body? What does success look like in your daily reality? That vision becomes the compass. Without it, your habits are scattered. With it, every habit becomes a step toward your chosen destiny. The student's eyes filled with determination. For the first time, he could see the man he wanted to become. The final word, the mentor stood, placed his hand on the young man's shoulder, and said, Remember, boy, every habit you choose is a vote. Every vote shapes the man you will become. If you want to be a man of strength, discipline, and clarity, cast your votes daily. Do not let emotions, chaos, or excuses rule you. Take responsibility. Guard your time. Act from principle, not mood. Build habits aligned with your vision. Do this, and you will not wander in circles. You will march with certainty toward the life you have chosen. And when storms come, you will not break, for your foundation will be order, and your destiny will be yours to command. The student stood taller, as if something inside him had awakened. He was no longer the same. He had been given the map, and now it was up to him to walk the road. Do you want me to also create a short summary lesson at the end of each part, like Napoleon Hill's author's note, that condenses the story into actionable steps for readers? Part 4. The farmer who learned the secret of growth. One summer afternoon in the heart of the Midwest, a young man named Daniel visited an old farmer. The farmer was famous in the county, not just for his rich harvests, but for the order and discipline of his life. His fields grew tall corn, his barns stood full, and his neighbors often wondered how one man could accomplish so much without ever appearing hurried or overwhelmed. Daniel, who had failed in 3 small businesses and was drowning in debt, came seeking advice. Sir, he said with desperation in his voice, I've tried and failed so many times. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I work hard, but life seems to work harder against me. The old farmer looked at him, then pointed to the field beyond. Do you see those crops, son? Yes. They grow because I live by laws greater than myself. The laws of the soil, the laws of time, and the laws of order. Success in the field is not about luck, and it is not about force. It is about harmony with those laws. The same is true in life. You are not failing because life is against you. You are failing because you are planting seeds without discipline, watering them with excuses, and then wondering why no harvest comes. Daniel lowered his head. For the first time, he understood his problem wasn't fate. It was him. The law of daily cultivation. The farmer walked Daniel to the edge of the cornfield. Every day, he said, I walk these rows. Some days are hot, some are rainy, some are tiring. But I never skip. Why? Because neglect, even for a short time, destroys what took months to build. Your life works the same way. If you neglect your habits, your goals, or your duties, even for a short time, you weaken the foundation you are building. Discipline isn't about doing great things once. It's about doing the right things daily, even when no one is watching. Daniel thought of how he had quit his businesses. Each time, he started strong, but when the work became repetitive or boring, he walked away. He realized he had treated his dreams like toys, not like fields to be cultivated. Growth is invisible before it is visible. The farmer picked up a small seed from the soil. This seed takes weeks to show a sprout, he said. But while you see nothing above ground, great changes are happening below the ground. Roots are forming, strength is building, the plant is preparing for growth. Most men quit during this invisible stage. They say nothing is happening and abandon the process just before the breakthrough. The law of growth demands patience. You cannot rush it, and you cannot cheat it. If you trust the process and stay consistent, results will appear. Always. Daniel remembered how he gave up after just a few months of effort. He had been blind to the growth happening beneath the surface of his labor. The weeds of distraction. As they walked further, the farmer bent down and pulled up a weed. "Look here," he said. "Weeds grow faster than crops. If I leave this field unattended, weeds will choke the life out of my harvest. In life, your weeds are distractions, idle talk, pointless entertainment, unhealthy habits, and wasted hours. They don't look dangerous at first, but they rob you of time, energy, and focus. If you do not remove them quickly, they will grow stronger than your dreams. A man who cannot control his distractions cannot control his destiny." Daniel felt a sting of shame. He thought of the hours he had wasted scrolling, watching, and gossiping, while his dreams withered. Seasons cannot be rushed. The farmer stopped and looked at the horizon. "Son, no matter how hard I work, I cannot harvest corn in spring. Each season has its purpose: planting, growing, harvesting, resting. If I demand a harvest before its time, I will only destroy the field. So it is with life. Many men want instant success. They want wealth without preparation, mastery without practice, recognition without discipline. But the law of seasons does not bend for anyone. You must plant in faith, work in patience, and wait in endurance before you enjoy the harvest. The man who rushes the process ruins the crop." Daniel realized he had been guilty of chasing shortcuts. Instead of respecting seasons, he had demanded results instantly, and in doing so, destroyed his own chances. The habit of responsibility. The farmer turned serious. "Now let me tell you the greatest law of all, the law of responsibility. If my crop fails, I do not blame the weather, the market, or my neighbors. I look at my own actions. Did I plant correctly? Did I water faithfully? Did I remove weeds on time?" The man who blames circumstances is like a farmer who curses the sky but neglects his soil. He will die poor. Responsibility is the habit that separates the successful from the failures. You cannot command the rain or the sun, but you can command your own effort. If you take full responsibility, you gain full control. Daniel swallowed hard. He remembered blaming partners, blaming customers, even blaming bad luck. But he had never taken full responsibility. Order, the farmer's greatest weapon. They walked back to the farmhouse. The farmer's tools hung neatly on the wall, each in its place. "Why do you think I keep my farm in such order?" the farmer asked. Daniel shrugged. "Because you like things neat?" The farmer smiled. "No. Because order saves energy. When I know exactly where my tools are, I do not waste time searching. When my schedule is planned, I do not waste energy deciding. Chaos drains a man before he even begins his work. Order multiplies his strength. If you want to win in life, keep your habits, your time, and your responsibilities in order." A man in order is unstoppable. A man in chaos is defeated before the battle begins. Daniel nodded, slowly feeling a new clarity rising within him. The farmer's final words as the sun began to set. The farmer placed his hand on Daniel's shoulder. Son, life is a field. Every choice you make is a seed. Every day you live is cultivation. Every distraction you tolerate is a weed. And every season must be respected. Do not complain if your harvest is small. Look instead at the seeds you have sown, the weeds you have allowed, and the discipline you have practiced. When you take responsibility, and when you live by order, your harvest will always match your labor. Remember, growth is invisible before it is visible. Stay faithful. Stay patient. Stay disciplined. And in time, your field will be full. Daniel left the farm a different man. He came with excuses, but he left with responsibility. He came looking for luck, but he left with laws. And though he had no crop to show yet, he carried the seed of a new life inside him. Writing hand word count 1015. Would you like me to also add a short author's lesson section at the end of each part? 3 to 5 bullet points summarizing the principles, so readers can apply the story instantly, just like Napoleon Hill used to reinforce his lessons? Part 5. The steelworkers' fire. On a cold Pittsburgh morning in the 1920s, a young steelworker named Thomas stood inside a massive mill, staring at the roaring furnaces that melted iron into steel. Sparks flew like stars, and the heat pressed against his face. To him, the fire was more than fire. It was a reminder of his own burning frustration. Thomas had dreams of owning a small machine shop one day, but his reality was grim. Long hours, little pay, and an endless cycle of fatigue drained him. Each night he collapsed into bed wondering if life would ever change. One evening, after another grueling shift, he sat with his old uncle, a retired foreman. "Uncle," Thomas said bitterly, "I'm stuck. No matter how hard I work, I'm still broke, still tired, still behind. Maybe the world is just unfair." The old man leaned back in his chair, lit his pipe, and stared at his nephew. "Boy," he said, "steel doesn't come out of the ground strong. It's iron ore first, dirty, heavy, and useless. But when you put it into the fire, when you hammer it, when you refine it, it becomes steel. Strong, valuable, unbreakable. Your life works the same way. You're in the fire now. But if you endure it, if you let it shape you instead of break you, you'll come out stronger than you can imagine." Those words struck Thomas like a spark. For the first time, he understood. The fire he hated was the very thing that could forge his future. Lesson 1. The fire of adversity. The next morning, Thomas returned to the mill with new eyes. As he shoveled coal into the roaring furnace, he thought, "This fire is not my enemy. It is my teacher." He noticed how iron ore, worthless in its raw state, transformed under heat and pressure into something valuable. He realized his struggles were doing the same for him. His long hours were building endurance. His failures were teaching him lessons no book could give. His disappointments were shaping his patience. Napoleon Hill once said that within every adversity lies the seed of equal or greater benefit. Thomas began to believe this. Instead of cursing his hardships, he started asking, "What is this teaching me?" The fire of adversity, he discovered, is the birthplace of strength. Lesson 2. The hammer of discipline. One day, the foreman handed Thomas a heavy hammer and asked him to pound glowing steel into shape. Blow after blow, the metal slowly bent into form. As sweat dripped down his face, Thomas realized something powerful. Discipline is the hammer that shapes potential into power. Without the hammer, the steel would stay soft and shapeless. Without discipline, a man's talents remain wasted and unused. Every early morning, every late night of study, Every hour of steady labor was another strike of the hammer on his life. Thomas decided he would no longer avoid discipline. He would welcome it. Lesson 3. The spark of desire during lunch breaks. Thomas began sketching designs in a small notebook. He drew machines he dreamed of building, tools that could change industries. The other workers laughed at him. "You're wasting your time," they said. "Dreams don't pay bills." But Thomas felt a fire inside him. His desire grew stronger than his doubts. He kept drawing, planning, and imagining his machine shop. Napoleon Hill taught that burning desire is the starting point of all achievement. Thomas had found his. It was the spark that kept him moving, even when the days were long and the nights were cold. Lesson 4. The refining of faith. Not long after, Thomas faced another challenge. His mother grew ill, and medical bills piled up. He almost abandoned his dream to work extra shifts. But his uncle reminded him, "Boy, faith is believing in the furnace even when you see nothing but smoke. Don't give up on what you can't see yet." So Thomas prayed, trusted, and kept his notebook close. Though his circumstances were heavy, he refused to let them kill his belief. Faith, he learned, is like the refining process, removing impurities from steel. Doubt weakens, faith strengthens. The more he trusted, the purer his determination became. Lesson 5. The power of mastermind. One Saturday, Thomas met another worker, Samuel, who shared his dream of starting a shop. Instead of competing, they decided to join forces. They spent evenings discussing ideas, studying machinery, and pooling their small savings. Together, they grew sharper. Samuel's knowledge of finance balanced Thomas's creativity. Their partnership reminded Thomas of a truth: two minds with a common purpose create a third, invisible force, a mastermind. Napoleon Hill called it the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony. Thomas now had not only his own determination, but the strength of another man's mind to fuel his journey. Lesson 6. The harvest of persistence. Years passed. Thomas worked days at the mill and nights on his ideas. His uncle passed away. His savings ran dry more than once, and the temptation to quit knocked on his door almost daily. But he remembered the fire, the hammer, the spark, the refining, the partnership, and he pressed on. Finally, one winter morning, Thomas and Samuel opened the doors to their own small machine shop. It wasn't fancy, but it was theirs. The smell of oil, the sound of gears turning, the sight of machines built with their own hands. It was a harvest sweeter than gold. The fire had not destroyed him. It had forged him. The uncle's final wisdom before he died. The old uncle gave Thomas one last lesson. "Boy, life will always have its furnace. Some men complain about the heat. Some run from it. But the wise man enters it willingly, for he knows that the fire doesn't burn him, it builds him. Never fear the furnace. Fear only the life that never enters it." Those words stayed with Thomas for the rest of his life. Key takeaways: the Napoleon Hill way. Adversity is your furnace. It refines you, not destroys you. Discipline is the hammer. It shapes your potential into power. Desire is the spark. Without it, nothing begins. Faith refines your vision. It removes doubt and strengthens purpose. The mastermind multiplies strength. Surround yourself with allies. Persistence brings the harvest. Never quit before the breakthrough. Thomas's story is a reminder to every American dreamer: your hardships are not the end of your journey. They are the fire that prepares you for it. Step into the furnace, take the hammer of discipline, and shape your life into steel. Part 6. The farmer's last seed. The sun was setting over the wide Kansas plains when an old farmer named Jacob stood at the edge of his land. His clothes were worn, his hands calloused, and his farm, once fertile, now looked dry and tired. A long drought had nearly destroyed everything he had built over 40 years. Neighbors whispered that he should quit, sell the land, and move into town. But Jacob refused. As he held a single bag of corn seed, he whispered to himself, "This may be my last chance. If I plant this, and the rains come, there will be a harvest. If I don't, the story ends here." The decision weighed heavy, but Jacob had learned one truth: the seed in his hand was worthless unless planted. And so, with tired steps and an unshakable will, he walked into the field and began to sow his last seeds into the earth. Lesson 1. Plant the seed of decision. Like Jacob, every person stands at a crossroads at some point. You may hold a dream, an idea, or a plan in your mind. But until you plant it with a firm decision, it remains just a dream. Napoleon Hill said that indecision is the greatest thief of opportunity. Success begins when you make a choice and commit to it, just as the farmer committed to planting his last seed. Jacob knew the drought might return. He knew failure was possible. But he also knew that hesitation guaranteed nothing. Planting the seed gave him a chance. That chance was worth everything. So it is with your dreams. Waiting won't feed you. Hesitation won't build your future. Decision will. Lesson 2. Faith is the rain. As days passed, Jacob checked the sky each morning. No clouds came. The neighbors shook their heads. "He's wasting his time," they said. But Jacob kept faith. He believed the rains would come, though nothing around him showed a sign. In Napoleon Hill's teaching, faith is the visualization and belief in the attainment of desire. It is the rain that makes the seed grow. Without it, the seed dries up and dies. Jacob's faith wasn't blind. It was built on years of knowing that seasons always change. Droughts do not last forever. Neither do your hardships. Faith keeps you moving when results haven't yet appeared. Lesson 3. Action is the plow. Jacob didn't just scatter seeds and sit idle. Each morning, he plowed, watered with what little he had, and pulled weeds from the dry ground. He acted as if the harvest was certain. This is another of Hill's truths. Action is the plow that turns faith into reality. Many people say they believe, but they do not act. They wait for perfect timing, better conditions, or someone else's approval. But the farmer teaches us that you act before the conditions are perfect. Action turns belief into results. Lesson 4. Persistence is the sun. Weeks passed. Still no rain. Still no sprouts. Most men would have given up, but Jacob pressed on. He checked the soil, protected the fields, and prayed over the land. Finally, one morning, the sky darkened. Thunder rolled across the horizon. Rain poured down, soaking the earth. Days later, tiny green shoots broke through the soil. The harvest had begun. What brought those shoots? Yes, the rain. But more importantly, persistence. The refusal to quit before the breakthrough. Napoleon Hill wrote, "Persistence is to the character of man what carbon is to steel. Without persistence, even the best plan withers. With it, even the weakest seed can grow into abundance." Lesson 5. Reaping what you sow. Months later, Jacob stood in his field, smiling at golden rows of corn swaying in the wind. His last seed had multiplied into thousands. The neighbors who once mocked him now admired him. They asked, "How did you do it?" He simply said, "I planted. I believed. I worked. And I waited." This is the eternal law. You reap what you sow. The thoughts you plant, the actions you water, and the persistence you shine upon them will grow into a harvest, good or bad. Lesson 6. Your last seed. Jacob's story is not just about farming, it is about life itself. Every person holds a last seed in their hand, a dream, a goal, a vision. Maybe for you, it's starting a business. Maybe it's writing a book, mending a relationship, building health, or finding financial independence. Whatever it is, the seed in your hand is worthless until you plant it. The final secret Napoleon Hill leaves us with is simple but life-changing. You already have everything you need. The seed is in your hand. Plant it now. The call to action as you close this book: remember Jacob in the field, sowing his last seed with faith. His neighbors doubted, the sky was empty, the soil was dry, but he planted anyway. And so must you. Don't wait for someday. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for someone else's permission. Take the dream that has been whispering inside you, the one you've been carrying silently, and plant it today. Write the first page. Make the first call. Save the first dollar. Take the first step. Plant it, water it with faith, plow it with action, and shine persistence upon it until it grows. One day, you will stand in your own golden field, harvesting the life you once only imagined. The journey is yours. The seed is yours. The time is now. Key principles recap: decision plants the seed. Nothing grows until you decide. Faith is the rain. Believe even before you see. Action is the plow. Keep moving, keep working. Persistence is the sun. Never quit before the harvest. You reap what you sow, plant wisely, and abundance will follow. Seedling, your dream is waiting to be planted. What will you do with the seed in your hand today?